yoga. So we are going to start in a seated position this morning. So you can come to a seated position. If you don't have a yoga mat, don't worry. You can do this on your floor. You can do this on the carpet. Either one is fine. We just have a short sequence to get our body moving, to get the inspiration moving this morning. And every time I'm going to be facing you and facing the camera this morning, I'm going to be mirroring what you do. So if I tell you to do something with your right hand or your right foot, I will be doing it with my left, just so that you can see it. It doesn't get confusing. So we're going to start this morning seated. Find a comfortable seat. I'm here cross-legged, and bring your hands down to your knees with your palms facing down. Soften your shoulders away from your ears. If you'd like to close your eyes, sometimes that is nice to close your eyes to start your practice. Just take a few breaths here to get settled, to get grounded, to get ready for the day. Pay close attention to the parts of your body that are connected to the ground. Then use your inhale to lengthen your spine and reach the crown of your head taller as you soften your shoulders down your back. We're going to start with a spinal twist this morning. You can blink your eyes open and take your right hand behind you. Bring your left hand to your right knee. Just twist over your right shoulder. You can bring your gaze over your right shoulder so that your chin is at your shoulder level. With every inhale, get longer through the crown of your head. With every exhale, twist just a little deeper. So we're going to warm up the spine in all 6 directions today. So the spine twists right and left. It folds right and left, and then it folds forwards and backwards. So we're going to work all 6 of those directions here in these first few moments of our class. Inhale back to center and switch sides. Bring your left hand behind you. Bring your right hand to your left knee. Start to twist your gaze over your left shoulder. Stay nice and tall through the spine. Every time we rinse and twist our spine, we want to make sure we're doing that from the fullest length possible. Just taking a little gentle twist here. Start to send some extra breath into your lungs. And twist a little deeper. Inhale, come back to center. And we're going to come into tabletop position. Just find a little bit of movement here and settle back into child's pose. So bring your big toes to touch. Sit your hips back towards your heels and walk your arms forward. If you'd like to take prayer pose, you can bring your palms to touch above you, and then you'll actually bend your elbows and bring your thumbs to the nape of your neck so that your elbows are resting on the mat. And you're getting some opening through the side bodies and underneath the shoulders. So I'll show you what this looks like as I come down. Whether your arms are straight in front of you or whether your elbows are bent in child's pose, again, start to sink your hips towards your heels. Send some extra length into the side bodies, to the side of your lungs. Take a few more deep breaths here. With your head on the mat, notice how it's easier to let go of external distractions a lot of times, and you can start to go inward. Just check in with your body today. See how your body's feeling. See how your energy level is feeling this morning. Take 2 more breaths here in child's pose. With your next inhale, come up into a tabletop position. Stack your shoulders directly over your wrist, your hips over your knees. I like to keep my toes curled under as I move. And we're going to take some cat-cow movements. As you inhale, bring your gaze and your tailbone up to the sky, stretching out your core. As you exhale, round and curl, look towards your belly button. Extend your tailbone down towards the ground. And then we're moving here with our own breath. So as you inhale and bring your gaze and heart forward, draw your shoulder blades together on your back. And then when you round and curl, press down into your hands so you can puff up like a Halloween cat here. A few more breaths just like that. We'll come back to a neutral spine. Start to bring your gaze over your left shoulder towards your left hip. And now start to bring your gaze over your right shoulder towards your right hip, so that you're working a little bit of that side body movement. We don't want to do a huge fold side to side here, but we do want to just get a little bit of that side to side movement. So again, we're working all 6 directions of the spine. You probably know this, but the spine is part of the nervous system. And with everything going on here the past few weeks with coronavirus and being at home, there's a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety that is coming up for people. So when we start to move the nervous system, we start to move the spine in all 6 directions, it helps to calm down our sympathetic nervous system and get us into more of a parasympathetic state, which is more of our rest and digest. It's the part we want to be in so that we can learn and create awesome connections with other people in the conference today. Okay, now come back to your neutral spine. You're going to walk your knees back just a little bit. If you're like me and you're at the top of your space, keep your hips stacked over your knees and walk into puppy pose. So you're just going to bring your hands forward a little bit more. Hips will stay up, and see if you can get your forehead to the mat. So this is kind of a cross between downward facing dog and child's pose. This can be a pretty big heart opener, pretty big shoulder opener. So send some extra love and breath to wherever you are feeling this in your body right now. See if you can begin to soften through your heart. To come out of the pose, walk your hands back towards your hips, coming back into tabletop, and then we're going to sit back into toes pose. So if you can see me here from the side, I'm going to curl my toes under and sit my hips to my heels. This pose can get pretty intense pretty quickly, so if you need to flip your feet and point your toes, go for it. But we just want to start to open up our foundation here today. Give our feet a little bit of love this morning. We walk around all day on our feet, and so sometimes it feels nice just to open up the bottoms of our feet so we can really get connected and grounded with our foundation this morning. Take one more breath in here. Then plant your hands in front of you, point your toes. You can tap your feet out a little bit to kind of release that pose. Then press it back to downward facing dog. For this first downward facing dog this morning, bend your knees a lot and focus on the upper body. So you can start to what we call walk the dog, bending your knees right and left a few times. Then settle into stillness. Press down firmly into your hands. Lift your hips up and back. Pull your belly up and in. Maybe root your heels closer to the ground. Take one more inhale here. Then step your right foot between your hands, finding a low lunge. I like to shift forwards and backwards on my left toes a little bit. Drop your left knee down to the ground. Come up so that you are in what I call proposal pose. So it's like you're proposing to yourself this morning. And again, start to shift your hips forwards and backwards. So you may feel this in the left hip flexor and psoas. You may feel this in the right glute. There's not really a right or wrong place to feel this. Just want to start to get open through the hips a little bit, since we'll be sitting for a while today, probably watching our computer screen. And then if you'd like to take it into a quad stretch, you can start to bend your back knee, reach with your left hand to capture your foot, and pull your heel towards your left hip and left glute. this isn't quite accessible for you this morning, that's okay. You can leave your toes on the ground and just keep working this pose here. We've got 2 more breaths. If you have your back foot, release it. Plant your hands on either side of your right toes and step your left foot forward to meet the right, coming into a wide leg forward fold. I've got my feet a little bit wider than hip width distance this morning, but my toes are still turned in. And then you can either have your hands down at the ground or interlace your hands to opposite elbows and take ragdoll pose. Ragdoll is exactly what it sounds like. You're just kind of hanging over your thighs, allowing the back body to release any tension that you're holding on to. This often feels really nice for people on the low back and the hips. This is a great time to imagine any stress that you're holding on to rolling off your spine, rolling off the crown of your head, landing in a puddle on the ground below you. If they're not already, release your hands down to the ground. You can see that I've bent my knees to do that. And then step your right foot back, so you're back in that low lunge posture that we were in before. I'll just take this hoodie off here. It's starting to get warm. All right, so find some movement. And drop down onto your right knee. Bring your hands to your left thigh. And again, start to find coming in and out of the lunge a little bit. If you'd like to take the quad stretch here, you can start to bend your right knee, reach around and capture your foot. Pull your heel towards your right glute. You may notice that there's a difference between the right and left side. That's pretty typical for most people. We tend to have a dominant side, right? So if you think we're right-handed, some people are left-handed. And even internally, if you look at our organs, our heart is slightly to the left, our liver's on the right. So the fact that we expect to be perfectly symmetrical externally always seems kind of silly to me. And then plant your hands on either side of your left foot. We're going to step right back to downward facing dog. Shake out your legs if you need to. And come into a pose called dolphin pose. So you can either stay in down dog, or you can drop down onto your forearms and come into dolphin pose. I really like this pose because it starts to open up underneath the shoulders. It elongates the side bodies, so we find a little more space in our lungs to breathe. Take one more inhale breath here. And exhale, drop down onto your knees. You can come up into a tabletop position or just move around a little bit. And then press back to downward facing dog. We're going to come into triangle pose. And I'm just going to turn around here so that you can see this a little bit differently. Step your right foot forward into a lunge. Spin your left heel down to the ground and open all the way up so that your hips are facing kind of the side, and straighten your right leg. So you've already made a triangle with your legs and the floor. Bring your arms out to a T. Start to reach forward with your right fingertips, and then tilt your right hand to 6 and 12, so you're in triangle pose. This can be pretty intense on the front thigh. And here I am. I said I was going to mirror you guys, and now I'm still doing the right leg, but that's okay. It's one of those mornings, right? Haven't quite gotten the coffee. But come back out of the pose. Turn your right toes in. Turn your left toes out. And then keep your hips nice and square. We're going to reach forward with the left fingers this time. Keep the legs strong. And tilt your arms to 6 and 12. Now we're just in triangle on the other side. Send breath into the lungs. Send a little extra love to your legs right now that are supporting you. Inhale, bring your torso back up. You can turn both toes in now so that the outer edges of your feet are parallel with one another and parallel with the front and back edge of your yoga mat if you're using a yoga mat this morning. Broaden across the chest and then start to take it to a wide leg forward fold. Bend your knees as much as you need to get your hands down to the ground. You can shimmy yourself side to side a little bit if you'd like, or take it all the way into a fold. You'll notice we're doing a lot to open up the lower part of the body today, and that's because we really want to get down into the lower chakras. We can get nice and grounded, settle our energy a little bit. Okay, bring your arms out to a T, rise back up to standing, and you can toe heel your feet back to touch. If you'd like, we're going to do a couple balancing poses this morning. So if you've ever done eagle pose before, we're going to bind up our legs and our arms so that then we can release some of that tension. So sit down low into more of a chair pose and sweep your arms overhead as you inhale. This one I am going to mirror you guys this morning. So bring your right elbow underneath your left. You're going to cross at the elbows and then maybe again at the wrist. If the wrist is not available to you, hands to opposite shoulders. Sit nice and low. And bring your right leg up and over your left. You can use your right toes as a kickstand beside you. Maybe come all the way around for the wrap. That's not necessary. But we want to squeeze the inner thighs. We want to squeeze the elbows and wrist if you have the full bind in the arms. So inhale, unravel, back up to standing. Sit low in the legs, keep that bend in the knees. Bring your left elbow under your right, and again, cross either at the wrist and elbows so that your palms touch, or hands to opposite shoulders. Left leg over the right. You can use your toes as a kickstand or wrap all the way around. Squeeze your inner thighs. Squeeze your elbows. This usually feels pretty good in the upper shoulders and upper back for me. Send some extra love there. Good, unravel all the way up to standing. Bring your hands to heart. One more standing pose this morning. Ground into your right foot and bring the sole of your left foot either to your calf or all the way up to your inner thigh. Just make sure that you're avoiding your knee because we're going to be pressing the sole of the foot into our standing right leg. You don't want to press your knee sideways. That's generally not good to bend your knee out that direction. Hands can come to heart. Pay attention to the part of your body that's connected to the mat. So your standing right leg. Soften your gaze over your fingers. The downward 45-degree gaze at the ground can help to calm the central nervous system down, helps to settle our fight or flight response, and get us ready for the day. With your exhale, release your left foot down, bring your right foot up, just transition, and again, either calf or inner thigh, avoiding the knee joint. Open your right knee out to the side, hands to heart. Soften your gaze. Focus on your foundation and imagine that you have roots in your left foot that are growing all the way down into a tree. And then the crown of your head is like your branches growing up nice and tall. Release your foot down. Bend your knees right and left. Take a moment here. I like to bring my thumbs to my third eye to bow and honor my standing practice. We're going to come back to downward facing dog. Meet back in downward facing dog, however you want to get there. Bring your right knee forward. Knee is going to come right behind the right wrist for a half pigeon pose. Settle your hips down. And point your left toes and walk your hands back just a little bit to get some length through the side bodies. Start to walk your hands down so that you're folding over your right thigh. If your forehead does not touch the ground, take 2 fists and stack them on top of one another. Then bring your forearms down and rest your forehead on your fist. It's pretty common to feel a lot of tension in the outer glutes and the hip area. And if you think about the fact that every time we are sitting down and maybe we get, our boss comes in and tells us, oh, you've got this project that's due tomorrow, or, we get into, an argument with our kids or whatever, that tension, that muscular tension that we get is going to go to the lowest point. So anytime we're sitting in traffic, in the car, right, that muscular tension is going to go to the lowest point in our body. And whenever we're sitting, that's in our hip region. So this is a great pose to start to release some of those old tense areas where you might be holding on to a lot of like scar tissue in the muscles, maybe not even scar tissue, but just muscles that have been tight and stressed for a long time. Come back up onto your palms. And we're going to roll onto the outer edge of your right hip. Sweep your left foot all the way around. Bring the sole of your right foot to your inner left thigh. Bend your left knee as much as you need to so that you can wrap your hands around the bottom of your left foot. Then start to press your left heel forward. One more inhale breath here. One more exhale breath, push your heel away from you. Come back up to a seated position. Sweep your left foot back. Plant your hands in front of you, curl your left toes under, and step your right foot back to downward facing dog. We're coming into the other side, left knee forward behind the left wrist. Settle your right hip closer to the mat. Get your hands beside you, get nice and long through the torso. And again, you can make that double fist and rest your hands, your forehead on your hands. Roll your right hip a little closer to the mat. Let your whole body begin to relax and get settled. If your attention begins to wander, bring it back to the breath. Check in with the places that are connected to the ground. We're here for a couple more breaths. Press up onto your palms. Roll onto the outer edge of your left hip so that you can swing your right foot around. Bring the sole of your left foot to your inner thigh. Bend your right knee as much as you need to wrap your hands around the bottom of your foot. Start to press your heel forward. Shift your right hip back just a little bit. And fold over your right thigh. Breathe deeply in and out through the nose. That helps to settle the nervous system as well. So everything we're doing here today is meant to release stress, even if we're not in the middle of a pandemic, right? As entrepreneurs, as women, many of you are probably moms out there, we hold on to a lot of stress. We have a lot of stress in our life. So this sequence was really designed to help you release any stress you're holding on to in the body, prepare you for an awesome day. Come back up to seated. Spin your right foot back behind you. Plant your hands. Step back to downward facing dog. Give it a little shake if you need to. Drop down onto your knees. We're going to come into one last pose here together, camel pose, to open up the heart, prepare us for making some great connections today. So our heart center is a center of love and connection, so let's get ready to meet some awesome other women today. Hands to the low back, draw your shoulder blades to touch, get long from your knees to your shoulders, and start to lift your heart up. Take 3 breaths here. Inhale, lift your heart. Exhale, draw your shoulder blades together. 2 more breaths. Inhale, lift. Exhale, ground through the legs. Inhale, rise back up. Exhale, plant your hands and just shift your hips to one side. Extend your legs out in front of you. Come all the way down onto your back. We've got a couple different options here that you can rest for these next couple moments together. We've got about 3 more minutes together. So you can either choose to do legs up the wall pose. If you have an actual wall near you, you can put your heels on the wall. Sometimes this is a really nice place to stay. If you would like to open up more through the inner thighs, you can bring the soles of your feet together and lay back in a bound angle pose. So also called butterfly pose, soles of your feet to touch, knees open wide. Or you can rest into traditional Shavasana with your legs extended, your arms by your side, palms up towards the sky. So those are your 3 options for our last few moments together. Get nice and settled, either in legs up the wall, reclined bound angle, or your Shavasana pose. And begin to bring your attention to your right leg. Let your right leg get heavy and soft into the mat. If you're in legs at the wall pose, see if you can feel like your whole right femur bone is settling down deeper into your hip socket. And do the same thing with your left leg. Let your left leg get heavy and relaxed so that gravity is doing all of the work here. You're not doing anything to hold your body, to hold the lower part of the body. Begin to bring your attention to your pelvic bone. This is one of the largest bones in the body. Let that root deeper into your space. Watch your breath rise and fall as it returns back to its natural rhythm. See if you can feel your heart beating in your chest. Let your shoulders soften away from your ears and allow all of the relaxation from your shoulders and your neck to work its way down your arms into your fingertips. Finally, relax your jaw and the space between your eyebrows until your whole body feels soft and ready to learn and grow and connect today. This is a great time to check inward for a moment or two and set an intention for what you want to learn today. What is the 1 or 2 really big items that would help you grow as a businesswoman, as a human being? And commit to taking away those 1 or 2 things today. Going to these conferences can be a bit like drinking from a fire hose. So when we have a focus on 1 or 2 things, it helps us to stay grounded, it helps us to stay focused, it helps us to stay attentive through all the really important sessions and begin to allow all of the other things that are maybe not on the top of our priority list. We can allow those to be something that we can come back to later in the week. Thank you all so much for being here this morning, for allowing me to guide you through this movement, this mindful movement this morning. I'm so honored that Rachel asked me to do this. And again, my name is Jamie Blackburn. I hope to see you all again very soon, either on your mat or at another one of these amazing Real Impact events. From the light in me to the light in you. Namaste.